Hey everyone, I'm James, and this is Covetous Imp Gaming, and this week we are going to continue our series of our favorite / overpowered Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monsters, this time covering from CRs 9 to CR 20, and ignoring anything that has a legendary or lair action. If you haven't done so already, please like this video, leave us a comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you're alerted when we release our future content, and check us out over on Facebook and Patreon. Those links are down below. Starting us off on the list at CR9 is the Cloud Giant. With 200 hit points and a ridiculous plus 12 to hit, and the ability to Misty Step 3 times a day, makes the Cloud Giant just a big ball of health that can bounce around the battlefield and pick an adventuring party apart. Next on the list, also at CR9, is the Abdurer, the polar opposite of the Cloud Giant, never wanting to be in someone's face, but the ability Arcane Ward does mitigate a little bit of a hit from a oncoming attack. And the fact that Arcane Ward refreshes every time they cast a spell: Mage Armor, Arcane Ward; Shield, Arcane Ward; Counterspell, Arcane Ward; Dispel Magic, Arcane Ward. Just makes them something that can sit in the back of the battle and say no to anything that you want to do, and get a pool of like a shield to end, all the while just control the battlefield. Makes it a force to be reckoned with. Next up at CR10 is the Death Slod. The extra abilities of magic resistance and regeneration, as well as the ability to start the fight invisible, cast Cloud Kill once a day, Fireball twice a day, multi-attack, doing 3 attacks per round, each attack dealing additional necrotic damage, make this easily a deadly encounter for a group of level 10s. Like, the chances of you losing somebody against a Death Slod are extremely high, and losing more than one person or having it snowball into a TPK feels easy. My other CR10 is the Elder Obliques. With an at-will charm person at 5th level, 3 times a day using Dominate Person, and the Eat Memories ability. Basically, on a DC 18 Wisdom save, you take a ton of psychic damage, and then you are basically baned. And every time you fail that saving throw going forward, it gets worse. First, it's a D4 you subtract from everything, then it's a D6, a D8, all the way up to a D20, where you are basically unconscious if you have survived all that psychic damage. The Elder Obliques can also copy someone that it has eaten the memories of, and basically produce a copy, a simulacrum of that person, allowing it to infiltrate your group and things like that. It is a horrendously overpowered ooze. At CR11, we have the Remoras, with a ridiculously high armor class and also high hit points, immunity to both cold and fire, the ability to bite and then swallow a player, and on top of that, the ability to, when it's touched or hit within melee range, it deals a 3d6 fire damage back to the person that touched it or hit it. Again, this is one of those, it can go, one Remoras can cause a huge snowball effect. If the fighter gets swallowed, then it's just running around the room, eating up everything else, or not eating up, but destroying everything else in its path. My other CR11 is the Soulmonger. Anytime, and it will happen countless times throughout the rest of this video, a creature with magic resistance is almost always going to be successful on their saving throws against magic at these high levels, because the pluses that they have to their ability scores, or the pluses that they have to saving throws, make it so when you're rolling with advantage and then you have these saving throw pluses, that they're just going to make it. The DCs versus being at advantage just aren't there. That with their once per day Chain Lightning and Finger of Death, the fact that their daggers deal 3d12 necrotic damage, and the wave ability that they have on a 4 to 6 recharge, which means half the time this is going to recharge and they're going to be able to do it, and it dishes out a ton of psychic damage as well as levels of exhaustion on failed saving throws. You can have one of these pop out of the woods against a party, deal some damage. If it starts to not go their way, they can just poof and be gone and wait for another opportunity, kind of following in the shadows behind the party as they go. Starting off the CR12 list is the Arcanaloth. Again, with magic resistance and 4 extremely high saving throw bonuses, the Arcanaloth is just not failing a saving throw against magic. Couple that with their ability to teleport up to 60 feet, cast counterspell almost countless times, Chain Lightning, Finger of Death. They are another one of those monsters that can just shell out a ton of damage, and if nothing else, just eat up spell slots from a cleric. I fell in love with this guy during Curse of Strahd in the Amber Temple. He just sits and waits for a party to come into his area, and that's when he strikes. And if you don't have the ranged ability to deal with him from a distance, and you have to close that gap, the fact that he can teleport more than most people's movement speed, he's going to get away, and he's going to continue being a problem. My other CR12 for tonight is the Yuanti Anathma. With a high AC, high hit points, resistance to acid, fire, and lightning, and of course, magic resistance. The Ophidiophobia aura, causing people who fail their wisdom saving throws to be afraid of Yuanti and snakes, alone just makes this a powerhouse. And then you add in the fact that it has multi-attack for 4 attacks around, and access to the haste spell and divine word, where if it gets you low enough, it can outright kill you. Now we've got the CR13s, and we start off with the Nelfish Knee, the demon with, of course, magic resistance, a ton of impressive saving throw bonuses, resistance to a ton of damage types, 3 attacks per round, and access to a 4th ability that allows it to radiate a frightening aura. Basically, if you fail the saving throw, you are frightened. As well as the ability to teleport 120 feet away. Next up on the CR13 list is the Rakshasa. By itself, not super impressive. The impressive thing about this is it has the limited magic immunity. It takes magic resistance to a whole new level. Any spell that's cast on it that is level 6 or lower, it's just immune to. It has 0 effect, regardless of what the spell is. And any spell that is 7th level or higher that's cast on the Rakshasa, it has magic resistance to. Add on to that Charm Person, Dominate Person, and a whole slew of what are you thinking, I'm invisible, tons of abilities that just dominate the battlefield itself. Starting off our CR14s is more of a fun one. It is the Fire Giant Dreadnought. This is just literally a pile of armor class at AC 21. It has the ability to swing with both of its shields one at a time, each one dealing bludgeoning damage, fire damage, and piercing damage. It also has a shield charge akin to a Minotaur, but at a much higher DC and a much more detrimental amount of health taken away. Next up at the CR14 slot, we have the Cadaver Collector. Just like they sound, they walk around the battlefield picking up dead bodies. They can summon 1d6 specters. They have a paralyzing breath that on a failed save will paralyze anyone hit by it for 1 minute. And then the specters, as well as the Cadaver Collector's slam attacks, dealing 3d8 bludgeoning damage plus 3d10 necrotic damage, will surely give the Cadaver Collector more ammunition for future specters. At CR15, we've got another favorite of mine, and it's the Purple Worm. The ability to swallow something, tunnel away, be a ridiculous amount of hit points again, and just about be impossible for it to fail a Constitution saving throw ever. Make it a fun thing to throw into a higher level group's camp, or just if they spend too long in one area, just have it burst out of the ground, devour someone, and then dive back into the ground and have the party basically wait for it to reappear again. Coming in at CR16, we have the Merolith. This thing is insane with 18 AC, a ton of damage resistances, very impressive saving throw bonuses again, and of course we're back to magic resistance. The ability to make 7, yes, I said 7 attacks per round, and teleport up to 120 feet, as well as a reaction to parry, increasing its AC by 5, that it can do every single turn in combat. Will stop an insane amount of incoming damage with a 23 AC. Coming in at CR17 is the Death Knight, and I have just 2 words: Hellfire Orb. 10d6 fire damage and 10d6 necrotic damage to pretty much everything on the battlefield is really gonna separate who wants to be here and who doesn't. Follow that up with an impressive spell list, basically necrotic smiting on every successful hit, and of course magic resistance. I honestly cannot believe that the Death Knight did not have legendary actions and layer actions. This is the kind of monster that obviously would be a named monster in anybody's campaign. You wouldn't just have here's a random Death Knight, but in the monster manual, this is where we start, and then you only go up from there. Coming in at CR18 is the Amnezu. AC is 21, ridiculously high saving throw bonuses, coupled with magic resistance once again, the ability to cast Charm Person, Dominate Monster, and then its regular attacks with the Taskmaster's Whip doing a ton of damage. Followed by Disruptive Touch and Poison Mind. It can do all 3 of those attacks each round, the last 2 doing a ton of necrotic damage. On a recharge of 6, it can cast Forgetfulness, stunning somebody for a minute, and as a reaction, it can cause someone to make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they have to attack an ally. Next up at CR19, we've got the Bailor. Again, magic resistance, teleport 120 feet. Couple that with the fact that if you actually kill the Bailor, it explodes, dealing 20d6 damage to everything within range. On top of that, if you hit it or if you start your turn near it, you take 3d6 fire damage. For its multi-attacks, you're looking at one dealing slashing damage and lightning damage, the other one dealing slashing damage and fire damage, and the ability to knock you prone and just pull you around. Finally, at CR20, we've got another favorite of mine that's on the list, and that is the Nightwalker. It is resistant to a whole slew of damage types, and it just radiates and oozes death and destruction everywhere it goes. The necrotic damage starts when you start your turn within 30 feet of the Nightwalker, making a DC 21 Constitution saving throw or taking 4d6 necrotic damage, and that's just the beginning. Its 2 attacks, Enervating Focus and Finger of Doom, deal a ton of necrotic damage. Enervating Focus will reduce your max HP if you fail a saving throw, and Finger of Doom if you fail your Wisdom save. You are frightened and paralyzed. The coup de grace of the Nightwalker is if any damage that it deals to you reduces you to 0 hit points, you are dead and cannot be brought back to life by anything short of a wish spell. I hope you guys enjoyed this list as much as I enjoyed making this list. Look for us next week where I'm going to be once again doing a 2-part video. The first part will be a dinner at Castle Ravenloft. Thanks for watching. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next week in Barovia.